The galaxy was ruled by powerful alien empires that had long crushed any race that dared to challenge them. For centuries, they had remained unchallenged, with no threats on the horizon. But then, everything changed. One day, a human warship, the Titan, entered their space. At first, the aliens dismissed it as a small, insignificant ship, perhaps a lost explorer or a forgotten relic of a long-forgotten war. They couldn't have been more wrong. The Titan didn't communicate, didn't announce its presence. It simply moved through their vast empire, silent and unseen, like a shadow in the dark. The alien empire scouts tried to track it, but the ship was too elusive. It moved quickly, changing direction in ways that no one expected. The alien forces thought they could ignore it, but something about the Titan made them uneasy. It was as if the ship was waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and the more they tried to ignore it, the more their fear grew. Then, without warning, the Titan struck. An alien outpost on the edge of their empire was the first to feel its power. In a matter of minutes, the Titan obliterated the outpost, leaving nothing behind but a cloud of debris and broken communication systems. The alien commanders were stunned. How could a single human ship have destroyed such a well-fortified base with such ease? There were no answers. The Titan didn't stop there. It kept moving, cutting through alien space like a knife through butter. The aliens sent their best fleets after it, but no matter how many ships they sent, none could match the might of the Titan. The warship's weapons were unlike anything they had ever seen. With each battle, it destroyed more and more of their fleets. The Titan didn't rely on brute force. It used its advanced technology and strategic brilliance to take down enemy ships with precision. The aliens couldn't even land a single hit on the ship. Each victory made them more desperate, more afraid. What was this human warship? How was it so powerful? And why had humanity waited so long to reveal such a weapon? The questions piled up, but the answers never came. Soon, entire sectors of the galaxy fell into chaos. Alien worlds that had once been untouchable were now vulnerable. The Titan had no mercy. It attacked military strongholds, supply depots, and any alien force that dared to stand in its way. Every time the aliens thought they had the upper hand, the Titan would disappear, only to reappear in another part of their empire, taking down another target. Their attempts to stop it seemed futile. Every strategy they devised failed. They sent larger fleets, stronger defenses, but the Titan continued to cut through them with ease. It was as if the warship could read their every move, anticipate their every decision. The more they tried to catch it, the more they found themselves outmaneuvered. The alien empire was crumbling. Its once mighty fleets were being wiped out, one by one. The leaders of the alien race, who had once ruled over entire galaxies, began to panic. Their people were terrified. The Titan had become the face of humanity's power, a symbol of something they could no longer control. The aliens, who had once believed they were invincible, now feared the very human warship they'd once ignored. The Titan neared the heart of the alien empire. The alien leaders scrambled to come up with a solution. Desperation spread throughout their ranks. They knew their time was running out. They had no choice but to face the Titan head-on. The decision was made. They would send everything they had left to stop it. The final battle was imminent. But even as they prepared for the confrontation, doubt lingered in their minds. Could they really defeat this human warship? Or was it already too late? The Titan didn't care about their plans. It didn't slow down. It moved forward, unstoppable, its weapons ready to unleash another wave of destruction. The warship had already accomplished what seemed impossible. It had proven that humanity was no longer a weak species hiding in the corners of the galaxy. It was now a force to be reckoned with, a force that could challenge even the most powerful alien empires. And as the Titan sailed closer to the alien capital, the galaxy held its breath. The final showdown was about to begin. Would the aliens' last-ditch effort be enough to stop humanity? Or had the Titan already sealed their fate? There was no way to know. The only thing that was certain was that humanity's warship had become the galaxy's first true fear, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the distant reaches of the galaxy, The alien empire had been the undisputed ruler for centuries. Their massive fleets stretched across countless star systems, and their power seemed unchallenged. They had destroyed many civilizations before, easily crushing anything that came into their path. To them, the idea of a human warship entering their territory was laughable. Humans were small, weak, and their technology was outdated. Or so they thought. No one had warned the aliens about the Phoenix. The Phoenix was humanity's first warship, built in secrecy, a ship designed not only for battle but to be a shadow in the dark. It didn't communicate with anyone, didn't send out any signals, and avoided detection at all costs. It moved like a whisper through the vastness of space, slipping past alien patrols and making no sound as it crossed into enemy territory. The aliens, focused on their daily routines, didn't notice the quiet intrusion. But they should have. For days, the Phoenix silently crossed alien space, never engaging in combat, never raising an alarm. The aliens thought nothing of it. They assumed it was a lost ship or perhaps an explorer with no weaponry. But as they continued their usual business, the Phoenix silently observed, analyzing every move the alien empire made. It was patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The warship was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, and its purpose was clear. It was there to destroy, but it would do so quietly, without warning. Then, when the time was right, it struck. A lone alien fleet, deep in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, was the first to feel its wrath. The Phoenix didn't attack with loud explosions or flashy displays. It didn't announce its presence with a battle cry. Instead, it used its advanced weaponry with deadly precision. A single shot from the ship's main cannon destroyed the lead ship of the fleet in an instant. The aliens had no time to react. Before they could even understand what had happened, the entire fleet was gone, wiped out in the blink of an eye. The Phoenix didn't stop. It moved on, continuing its silent war. The aliens were confused. How could a single ship cause so much damage, with no warning, no announcement? They began to search for the warship, but it was already gone, slipping into the darkness before they could even comprehend what had happened. The fear began to spread, but the aliens couldn't understand it. How could a human ship, seemingly so small and insignificant, be so powerful? They couldn't explain it.as the Phoenix continued its mission. The alien empire started to feel the pressure. It wasn't just the destruction that haunted them, it was the silence. The ship didn't announce itself, didn't show any signs of weakness, and never seemed to leave behind any trace. It was a ghost in the vastness of space, and that terrified the aliens more than anything. They began to make mistakes, panicking, sending ships into areas where they thought the Phoenix might be, only to find nothing but empty space. The silence of the ship created an atmosphere of fear. The alien forces, once so confident, were now filled with doubt. The Phoenix moved through alien space like a storm, but a quiet one. It took out bases, destroyed supply depots, and wiped out fleets, but it never lingered to savor the victory. After each attack, it would vanish, leaving the aliens scrambling to piece together what had just happened. They couldn't track it, couldn't predict its next move. All they could do was try to stop it. The alien leaders called for a meeting, but there was no strategy they could come up with that would defeat the Phoenix. They sent their largest and most powerful fleets to track it down, but the ship was always one step ahead. It was as if the Phoenix knew their every move before they made it. The more the aliens tried to fight back, the more they lost. It wasn't a full-scale war, it was a silent war, fought in the shadows where the Phoenix picked off its enemies one by one. The aliens started to feel the pressure. Their once secure empire was crumbling under the quiet attacks of a single human ship. They had never considered humans a threat, but now they were starting to understand that they had underestimated them completely. The Phoenix wasn't just another ship, it was a symbol of humanity's potential. It was a ship that could move unseen, strike without warning, and disappear before anyone could react. It was everything the aliens feared and more. With every passing day, the alien empire grew weaker. The Phoenix had taken out so many of their resources and military power that they could no longer maintain control over their territories. Fear turned to panic. The once proud alien fleets were now nothing but scattered remnants, searching for a warship that could not be found. The Phoenix was a ghost, and no one knew where it would strike next. But then, just when it seemed like the aliens had no hope left, the Phoenix made its final move. It was heading straight for the heart of the alien empire, toward the capital planet that controlled everything. The aliens had no choice but to prepare for the inevitable. They had tried everything to stop it, but nothing had worked. The silent warship had already destroyed too much, and now it was coming for the one thing that would end everything their homeworld. The final battle was inevitable. The Phoenix was already on its way. But would the aliens be ready? Or would the silent warship finally do what no one thought was possible, bring down the entire alien empire with nothing but its silence and its power? The galaxy was waiting, holding its breath. The Phoenix was about to make history. For centuries, the galaxy had been ruled by alien empires that believed they were invincible. Their fleets were massive, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of. They conquered worlds without mercy, spreading their control across the stars. To them, humanity was insignificant, a primitive species barely scraping by in a small corner of the universe. They had never imagined that the day would come when a human warship would challenge their empire. But that day had arrived. The Eclipse, humanity's first true warship, appeared in the alien-controlled sector of the galaxy, a small speck of defiance in an ocean of stars. At first, the aliens took no notice. It was just a single ship, drifting through space like countless others before it. But they were wrong. The Eclipse wasn't just another ship, it was the product of years of human ingenuity, a marvel of technology designed to strike fear into the heart of any empire that dared to stand in humanity's way. The Eclipse moved silently through the galaxy, its sleek, dark hull blending into the stars. Its crew was small, but their resolve was unshakable. The ship's mission was simple: destroy. It didn't make its presence known to the enemy. It didn't send out threats or try to negotiate. It didn't need to. The Eclipse was a weapon, and it would do its job without any fanfare. The aliens, however, were too focused on their routine to notice the approaching storm. When the Eclipse made its first move, it was swift and silent. The aliens didn't see it coming. A single attack on an unsuspecting alien supply base sent shockwaves through their communications. Within moments, the base was reduced to rubble. The alien forces scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard. The Eclipse didn't wait for them to gather their forces. It struck again, this time taking out an entire fleet of alien warships in a single, well-placed strike. The aliens were in chaos. They had never seen anything like this before. A human ship, one ship, taking down entire fleets with such precision and ease. It was the first sign that their dominance was being challenged. The alien commanders tried to regroup, but it was too late. The Eclipse was always one step ahead. Every time they thought they had a plan, the ship would disappear, leaving only destruction in its wake. No matter how many ships they sent after it, they could never catch it. The Eclipse seemed to know their every move before they made it. It was as if the ship could anticipate their every decision, their every strategy. They couldn't stop it. The tide was turning, but they couldn't understand why. The Eclipse didn't care about the alien fleets. It wasn't interested in playing their games. It was focused on one thing: dismantling the alien empire piece by piece. The alien leaders began to panic. For the first time in centuries, they were facing something they couldn't control. They tried to rally their forces, sending their largest fleets to confront the Eclipse, but each time they were met with failure. The ship's weapons were too powerful, too precise. The aliens couldn't keep up. It wasn't just that the Eclipse was strong, it was smarter. It used strategy, tactics, and cunning to outthink its enemies. The alien empires that had once believed themselves untouchable were now beginning to fall apart. Soon, entire sectors of the galaxy were in turmoil. Planets that had once been under alien rule were freed from their grasp. The Eclipse didn't just defeat the alien fleets, it destroyed the very heart of their empire. The alien leaders found themselves losing control over their territories, unable to protect their people or resources. The Eclipse was an unstoppable force, and it was changing the course of the Galaxy.as. The warship continued its relentless march. It became clear that humanity was no longer the underdog. The eclipse was the symbol of human strength and resolve. What had once been a small, defenseless species was now a power to be reckoned with. The alien forces, once so sure of their superiority, now feared the eclipse more than anything else in the galaxy. And with every victory, humanity's reputation grew stronger. The aliens realized that they had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated the humans. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's warship wasn't just a ship, it was a turning point in the balance of power. As the eclipse neared the heart of the alien empire, the alien leaders knew that their time was running out. They had no choice but to face the ship head-on, but they were no longer confident. What was once their domain was now slipping from their grasp, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The eclipse was about to make its final move, and the galaxy held its breath. The final confrontation was inevitable. The eclipse had already proven that it could defeat any force sent against it. Now, it was heading straight for the capital planet, the seat of the alien empire's power. The alien leaders, desperate to protect their last stronghold, gathered their remaining fleets in a final attempt to stop humanity's warship. But the eclipse didn't flinch. It continued forward, cutting through the alien defenses with ease. The battle that followed was fierce, but it was clear that the alien forces stood no chance. The eclipse tore through their fleets, one ship after another falling to its superior weapons and strategy. The alien empire, once so powerful and unshakable, was now on the brink of collapse. And in the end, it was the humans who stood victorious. The turning point had arrived. The eclipse had done what no one thought possible. It had brought down an entire alien empire. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had shown its strength, and the aliens would never forget the day the eclipse entered their space. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy would now look to humanity not as a small, weak species, but as a force to be reckoned with. The eclipse had changed everything. And with that, the turning point of the galaxy had been reached. For centuries, the alien empires had maintained their dominance over the galaxy, spreading fear and control across countless worlds. They had crushed civilizations that dared to resist, and their fleets were the most powerful force in the universe. No one had ever challenged them, not until humanity made its move. The first sign that things were about to change came in the form of a single, silent warship, the Tempest. It appeared in the outer reaches of the galaxy, unnoticed at first, but it didn't take long for the alien forces to realize that this was no ordinary ship. At first, the Tempest moved through the galaxy like a whisper. The alien commanders, confident in their power, dismissed it as a non-threat. It was just a human ship, they thought, one of many drifting through space, lost and insignificant. But they were wrong. The Tempest was no ordinary ship. It was built for one purpose: to take down the alien empires, piece by piece, without ever being seen or heard. It was the perfect weapon, silent, swift, and deadly. No one knew where it came from, who commanded it, or why it had come, but one thing was certain: it was unstoppable. The first attack came without warning. An alien base on the fringes of their empire was the target. In the dead of night, when the base's defenses were least prepared, the Tempest struck. Its weapons were powerful, but it wasn't the force of the attack that terrified the aliens, it was the silence. No alarms, no explosions, no sounds of battle. Just a single shot, and the base was obliterated, reduced to rubble in seconds. The aliens didn't know what hit them. They scrambled to react, sending ships to investigate, but the Tempest had already disappeared, vanishing into the stars without a trace. The alien commanders couldn't understand it. How could a single human ship cause such destruction, and why didn't they know about it? The Tempest didn't announce itself with grand displays of force. It didn't send messages or broadcast its intentions. It simply moved through their empire, striking when they least expected it. With each attack, the fear spread. The Tempest wasn't just a ship, it was a storm, a silent storm that swept through the galaxy, leaving nothing destruction in its wake. The aliens tried to fight back. They sent their best fleets to find the Tempest, but it was always one step ahead. No matter how many ships they sent, they could never catch it. The Tempest was too fast, too elusive. It struck swiftly and vanished just as quickly, leaving no trace behind. The alien fleets grew more desperate. They changed their tactics, sent more ships, and increased their patrols, but nothing worked. The Tempest had them on edge, never giving them a moment of peace. Every time they thought they had a lead, the ship was gone, and they were left with nothing but wreckage. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the aliens began to feel the weight of the Tempest's campaign. It wasn't just that the ship was destroying their fleets and bases, it was the fact that they couldn't stop it. They couldn't even find it. The Tempest moved like a shadow, striking with perfect precision and then disappearing, leaving the aliens in constant fear. The galaxy, once under their firm control, was now slipping from their grasp. Worlds they had ruled for centuries were starting to fall. Supply lines were being cut, and their military forces were being dismantled piece by piece. The alien empire was on the brink of collapse. They couldn't afford to ignore the Tempest any longer. A meeting was called, and the leaders of the alien empire gathered to discuss their options. They were no longer confident in their ability to maintain control. The Tempest had turned the tide of the war, and they had no idea how to stop it. It was as if the ship knew their every move, anticipating their strategies before they even made them. They could no longer hold back their fear. But despite their fear, the alien commanders couldn't bring themselves to believe that a single human ship could be so powerful. They believed that the Tempest had to have some weakness, some flaw that they could exploit. They set traps, sent entire fleets to capture or destroy it, but the Tempest was always a step ahead. It didn't matter how many ships the aliens threw at it, the Tempest would destroy them without breaking a sweat and then disappear into the shadows. The Tempest wasn't just a physical force, it was a psychological one as well. The alien leaders began to doubt themselves. Were they truly the supreme power in the galaxy? Or had they underestimated humanity completely? The Tempest had proven that humans were no longer a race to be dismissed. They were a force to be reckoned with, a storm that could not be ignored. And as the Tempest moved closer to the heart of the alien empire, the aliens knew that their time was running out. The Warship had already taken out their most strategic outposts, and their supply lines were crumbling. The capital planet, the very center of their power, was within the Tempest's reach. The final confrontation was inevitable. The Tempest was on its way to strike at the heart of the Empire. The alien leaders, desperate to protect their homeworld, mobilized their entire fleet to defend their capital. They knew this was the last chance to stop the Tempest. But even as they prepared for battle, doubt crept into their minds. Could they truly defeat a ship that had already defeated them so many times? Or was this the end of their empire? The Tempest didn't care about their doubts. It didn't care about their fleets. It didn't care about anything except completing its mission. As it entered the final stretch of its journey, it was unstoppable. It was a storm, and nothing could stand in its way. The alien empire's reign was over, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The alien empire had once seemed invincible. For centuries, they ruled over vast stretches of the galaxy, their fleets dominating every star system they touched. Their technology was far beyond anything humanity could imagine, and their reach stretched into the very heart of the universe. Yet, in the shadows of their empire, a storm was brewing. Humanity had begun to make its mark, and it all began with one ship, the Defiance. At first, the alien leaders paid little attention to the Defiance. A single human warship, they thought, would never be enough to challenge their might. But the Defiance was different. It wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's resilience. And with every strike, the Defiance proved that the aliens had underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. It didn't announce its presence with grand speeches or threats. Instead, it quietly moved through the galaxy, leaving destruction in its wake. The alien empire was unprepared for what was coming. The first sign of trouble came when the Defiance destroyed an alien supply depot on the outer rim. The attack was quick, precise, and silent. Just a single, powerful strike, and the depot was gone. It didn't make sense to the aliens. How could such a small, seemingly insignificant ship do so much damage? They sent ships to investigate, but the Defiance had already vanished. It was as though the ship knew exactly where to strike, always staying one step ahead of the enemy. The attacks continued, each one more devastating than the last. The aliens tried to respond, but no matter what they did, they couldn't catch the Defiance. It moved like a ghost, slipping through their defenses and striking where they least expected it. Entire fleets were sent to hunt it down, but the Defiance was always one step ahead, picking off their ships with surgical precision before disappearing into the darkness of space. With every successful mission, the legend of the Defiance grew. What had started as a single ship's campaign of destruction was now something much bigger. The aliens could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had found a way to fight back. It wasn't just that the Defiance was powerful, it was the way it fought. The human crew, though small in number, were experts in their craft. They didn't just rely on brute force, they outsmarted the enemy. Every move was calculated, every attack planned to perfection. The Defiance was always a step ahead, anticipating the aliens' every move. The alien empire, once so sure of its dominance, now found itself in a desperate struggle for survival. But the alien empire wasn't ready to give up without a fight. As the Defiance continued to strike, the alien leaders convened in secret to discuss their next move. They knew the Defiance was no longer just a nuisance, it was a threat, and they had to act quickly. The time for subtlety was over. They needed to make their stand. The fleet they assembled was the largest they had ever sent, a final effort to crush the human warship once and for all. Their leaders were confident. They had the numbers, the power, and the resources to end this conflict. They were wrong. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Defiance, though outnumbered, fought with the fury of a species that had nothing to lose. The alien fleet closed in, determined to corner the warship and finish what they had started. But the Defiance wasn't afraid. It fought back with everything it had, using every tactic and weapon at its disposal to tear through the alien forces. The alien ships fell one by one, each explosion a reminder that humanity was not as weak as the aliens had believed. As the battle raged on, the alien commanders realized that they were losing. Despite their overwhelming numbers, they couldn't defeat the Defiance. It was as though the ship was everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles and dodging their attacks with incredible speed. The alien fleet, once so confident, began to crumble under the pressure. The tide was turning, and there was nothing the aliens could do to stop it. The Defiance wasn't just winning, it was dismantling the entire alien empire, piece by piece. It was then that the final blow came. In a move that would change the course of the war, the Defiance made a direct assault on the alien capital. The aliens had never expected the humans to be bold enough to target their homeworld. But the Defiance wasn't just any ship, it was humanity's last stand. The capital was well protected, surrounded by layers of defense ships and planetary shields. The aliens believed that no ship could penetrate their defenses, but the Defiance had already proven that it was no ordinary warship. With a precision strike, the Defiance broke through the defenses, tearing through the capital's fleet with ease. The alien leaders, realizing too late that they were no longer in control, scrambled to mount a defense. But their efforts were futile. The Defiance reached the heart of the capital and delivered a devastating blow that shook the entire planet. The alien empire, once so powerful, had finally been defeated. The Defiance didn't just destroy the alien fleet, it destroyed the very foundation of their empire. Their cities were in ruins, their fleets scattered, and their leaders in hiding. The galaxy, which had once trembled before the might of the alien empire, was now free. Humanity had proven that it was a force to be reckoned with, and the Defiance had shown the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was left to pick up the pieces. The alien empire was no more, its power shattered by a single human warship. The Defiance had turned the tide of the war and shown the universe that humanity would no longer be a passive spectator. From that day on, the galaxy would remember the name of the ship that brought down an empire, the Defiance.